As for the front, the situation is more or less normal. The situation is under control. The Pokrovsk direction is the most serious one today. There is an accumulation, a concentration of the enemy there, up to 100,000 as of the morning. They are preparing offensive actions in any case. It is important that we know and control this. In both Kharkiv and Donetsk regions, we are conducting active operations, and it is not easy for the enemy today. As for Kupiansk, the search operations are quite successful. 30 enemy subversive reconnaissance groups have been destroyed over the past 2 days. The Sumy direction is fine. We are slowly pushing the enemy out there. Zaporizhzhia, no changes. Basically, I think it's dangerous there because they are amassing their airborne forces, and this group is quite large. The situation in Dnipro is normal. It's under control. I think so far, that's it concerning the front. If you have any additional questions, I will answer them. As for the negotiation process, our team is currently working. Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, United Arab Emirates, Switzerland, United States of America. In other words, apart from the US, the Global South was my assignment to Yermak for this week. There is a bilateral track. All these countries where our delegation is, they all helped with the exchange of prisoners of war and the return of children and the return of some prisoners who were taken prisoner by Russians who are citizens of other countries. And all these sites are being worked on by our team, and the results are good. I will receive a full briefing on Saturday evening. As for these countries as potential venues for future meetings at the level of leaders in a bilateral or trilateral format. As for the United States of America, by the way, next week there will be a European track. Now there is the Global South, and next week, the European track. I think that we will organize it at the level of leaders, because some points need to be clarified regarding security guarantees. I want us to follow the same path, to understand each other, so I think we will be at different venues, we will have several meetings. I think at the level of leaders, I would call it, our Washington group and other groups of European leaders will meet. Mr. President, I would like to start with an event that will take place tonight, I believe in New York, where our team will meet with Mr. Witkoff. Will it be just Witkoff? And in fact, the question is, what was the plan of our negotiating delegation to go there? And, as you have already announced, the main issue is guarantees. So what do you expect after this meeting? Do you expect to understand exactly the format of the United States' participation in future guarantees for Ukraine after this meeting? Thank you for your question. We have a few questions with the American side. The first question is the Pearl program. We buy weapons from the United States. We have Denmark, Norway, and Sweden with 500 million, Germany with 500 million, and Canada during our meeting on August 24th with Carney decided on 500 million. Belgium confirmed 100 million this morning. We want this corridor to work a little faster. This is the number one question. Question number two. Russia is demonstrating its unwillingness to engage in diplomacy by, first of all, attacking civilian infrastructure, killing our civilians and our children. We urgently tried to convene the UN Security Council. Thanks to our partners, we collected 9 votes. We have succeeded. The Prime Minister will represent Ukraine today. She will represent Ukraine at the UN Security Council regarding these attacks on Ukraine by the Russian Federation. Prime Minister Yulia Sverdenko will also have separate meetings with US businesses, investments, and, as we already know, potential investors. As for the track, the head of the office will meet with Witkoff, just as we agreed with President Trump. Witkoff, Rubio, and J.D. Vance is joining in. That's what we agreed with him. From our side, Yermak, Umarov, and Kislitsa are involved. He and Witkoff will meet today. I think Witkoff and Yermak will meet today. And they will say exactly what we agreed with President Trump. Where are we in this coordination of preparing our meetings? As for coordination with other countries, Umarov is now communicating separately with the Turkish side. We are working in several areas regarding security guarantees. Why we are organizing a European track next week, for example, is because we need everything to make architecture understandable to everyone. Then we want to connect with President Trump in the same way during one meeting next week and tell him how we see it. Mr. President, could you please be more specific about security guarantees? There is an article in Politico that says that European countries are proposing a buffer zone. How do you see it? I have heard this repeatedly from Europeans and Americans. I just tried to explain it to my colleagues, some of them, as to friends. Some, by the way, understand all this very well. Only those who do not understand the state of the war today, the state of technology, propose a buffer zone of 40, 50, 60. I even heard a proposal for 100 kilometers. This is a completely different story. Today, heavy weapons are 10 plus kilometers apart because everything is hit by drones. This buffer zone, I call it the dead zone, some call it the gray zone, already exists. There is no need to delay anything, to stall for time, to be led by any clauses, conditions, additional conditions from Russia or some other dreamers. The buffer zone exists. If Russia wants to have a greater distance from us, they can move deeper into the temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine that they have occupied and settle there. We don't need anything for this. Drones burn everything out. If the sides order drones to clear everything within 20 kilometers, it'll be 20. If it's 40, it'll be 40. The commanders have the corresponding weapons. So no need to pull anything back. It's already been held back. Look at the front line of the Russian army. Where are the armored vehicles? Where are the tanks there? There is nothing left. No one is moving forward because everyone is losing equipment. Day, night, at any time. So it's just unnecessary talk. It was after 2014, it was in the Minsk process. There was another war. There was the ATO, another war, other forces, and there were no technologies that were even close to these ones. Then there was an agreement to disengage the troops. We remember how the disengagement of troops ended. We withdrew the equipment, they withdrew the equipment, but it didn't lead to anything. But that's another part of the story. Now it is what it is. Did you only ask about the buffer zone? About your vision of security guarantees. I won't tell you all the details. I believe that the following blocks are important for Ukraine. The first block is what everyone understands, our army. In my opinion, this block consists of funding for the number of personnel that we have today. The ability to finance the army in the amount that defends our borders today. No one says more because no one else will give more, but we cannot say less because we are not going to conduct the relevant experiments. So the army, it is about the personnel. Next, weapons for this army. 3 tracks that need to be supported and funded. And this requires partners. The first track is domestic, our production facilities, drones, technologies, etc. The second track is European production, air defense, artillery, etc. The third track is American weapons. American weapons are a corridor called Pearl, through NATO, how to finance. But separately, the agreement on American weapons that we need, strengthening the army, and as part of the security guarantee. As I said, we have done our homework. We handed this agreement over to the US. This concerns the first part, security guarantees. Our army, the second part, we have always wanted NATO. No one on the NATO side wants to, or let's just say, they are not giving it to us yet. And that's why there is a NATO-like. So my approach to this is very clear. If it is not NATO, we are told that it is as strong as NATO, but not NATO. In other words, in the second and third steps, we need to understand what our partners are willing to do. Because that's what an alliance is. And so this part, I want to discuss it with partners next week in Europe, but without our military. There were consultations of the general staffs, consultations of the chiefs of the main commands, consultations of national security advisors. And in my opinion, we need to get the leaders involved immediately to reach an agreement, and only then move on to the military, the NSA, etc. This is what I see, because the issues are such as boots on the ground and so on. This can only be discussed at the level of leaders, who is ready and what is ready for. This is my philosophy for the second block. The third block is crucial. Sanctions, it's also security guarantees. What are security guarantees? Let's say Russia attacks us again from the sea. Who will defend what and how? From the sky, which partner is ready to do what? And on the ground, from Belarus, from Russia, what difference does it make? Who is ready to do what? Where to support Ukraine? To answer these questions, they are very simple. Maybe the answers are more complicated really because we need to agree. But in answering these simple questions, we need to see who is ready to provide what to Ukraine. And for how long? That's why the sanctions are in the third block. And I believe that Russian assets are important because they are the restoration of our country, energy, communications, etc. This is also part of our security guarantees. These are the blocks I see. This is general. I'm not talking about the geopolitical part, which is definitely the EU and when Ukraine becomes a full member. These are also security guarantees, primarily economic ones. Do you feel strong European support for Ukraine, or does it depend on the US president's stance? Thank you. Of course, Europe's support depends on the position of the United States. In what sense of the word? We have seen, even when America was a little bit, there was such a moment. Yes, it was not easy. Europe was with us, but what does it depend on? If America, as it is now, signals security guarantees and involvement, Europe provides even more. They are more confident. This is also understandable. It is very important for their internal society, for their people to understand that Europe is not alone, but with America. This is about the same for Ukraine. It is important for Ukrainians to know that Ukraine is not alone in this war, but that Europe is with us. It is important for Europe to know that they are not alone. The US are with them. In fact, this is a trilateral alliance and it is very important to us. So far, I believe that our support is quite strong. I am interested in the question of your meetings with Putin. Do you see any signals from the Russian side that a meeting is actually being prepared? Because Merz is already openly saying that Putin most likely does not want to meet with you and is doing everything he can to avoid meeting with you. And a second clarifying question on the same topic. If Russia tries to stall again and, for example, proposes the format of a Lavrov-Yermak meeting in Istanbul, would that suit you and the Americans? Or would you agree to a lower level of talks than between you and Putin? Thank you for the question. Let's start with Istanbul. Lavrov, Yermak or Lavrov, Sibiga, Yermak, Ushakov. There is a corresponding counterpart, or Umarov-Medinsky. I don't see a big difference on the Russian side, because they operate in the same political corridor. To be honest, I don't see a big difference here either, because we work as a team. Therefore, they can offer a new level. What for? We have seen these signals in the media. What is the purpose? I believe that this is an artificial postponement of the meeting of the leaders because they want to show the United States that they are constructive, the Russians. They are unconstructive, unfortunately, because people are dying. And they want to find ways to delay what? The delay in imposing sanctions, the delay in the the kerfuffle. Because Americans, they don't take kindly to being played with and not playing fair. And they understand that a postponement may also affect the American side. America may give more weapons. For example, it may be a statement, or it may be actions. For example, 3,000 missiles today. Yesterday was a strike, today we will give the Ukrainians 3,000 missiles. There are questions about when they will come, but nevertheless, this is pressure. I have always said that sanctions mean pressure. If Ukraine signs a contract with the US for billions of dollars for fighter jets, air defense, and so on, this is also pressure. When Ukraine receives them and when Ukraine can use them, this is also pressure. That's why sanctions and related things are pressure. Tariffs on third countries are also pressure on Russia. The issue of volume, secondary sanctions could be a blow to the Russian economy. We want this very much. Our partners are hesitant. Of course, they want to have some kind of diplomatic connection with the Russians. That's why Russians will do everything they can to avoid meeting. I think they got something, because they had a meeting with the United States of America. And it is clear that if a trilateral meeting had been proposed at once, there would have been more chances for a trilateral meeting before the bilateral one between the United States and Russia. It is what it is, it was not our decision, but nevertheless, today we have what Trump has proposed. Let's make it bilateral and then trilateral. The reasons are different. I think the American president has his own view on this, but we support one format or another. Is Putin already preparing for this meeting? Your meeting is not like putting two chairs together. It is very serious. Are there any signs that he is already preparing to meet? I think there are two parallel processes going on. They are thinking in parallel about how this meeting is possible. They do, but above all, they will do everything to prevent this. Because they will do everything to prevent our meeting from taking place. But if this is how the puzzles are going to fit together, both the global South and the United States must play their part now. In order for the puzzles to fit together, they need to be ready. For example, when there are such ultimatum statements from Peskov that we want this old story, denazification, what can we see in this? First of all, yes, it looks like a postponement because the conditions are the same, but I think it's also about preparing their society. Because they have a radicalized society that sees no point in our meeting. Related to the previous question, what do you think is necessary to bring Putin to the negotiation table? And the second question is, US President Trump has made a statement suggesting reluctance to attend the Ukraine-Russia meeting, if it happens. But how does Ukraine plan to involve the US to end this war? America's great desire is needed and Putin will be at the negotiating table. This is the first thing. And second, Russia has no desire to end the war. So the question is, they do not want to realize at the level of their leadership that this war is causing them serious losses. And we are not just talking about political losses, they have already lost face. Today we are talking about losses to their economy. Unfortunately, they don't feel it yet, although everyone has already realized that there are definitely bad things going on with the economy. And everyone is watching this not because they are worried about what will happen to Russia, but because they are worried about how much longer they can finance their army. If the analysts are right that they spent half of their budget this year on the war, or half of their taxes, I think. These are just serious, scary numbers. I'm not confirming it. It's that there are some such signals today. I can't say for sure, but still, there is no smoke without fire. So I think we need to pay attention to this. There are secondary sanctions, tariffs, other things, sanctions on certain products, sanctions on certain companies, and the shadow fleet is not completely eliminated, although good steps have been taken, but there is still a lot to be done, including energy, pricing policy, nuclear, and sanctions. All this will definitely happen anyway. I don't know how many packages it will take. Yesterday I spoke with the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen. The 19th package is now being considered, and this is good news. These sanctions cannot go alone, because Europe is not enough. And so Europe is now synchronizing with the United States of America. It is important that they started working together. We need the United States to take strong steps. They can. They are the most powerful in sanctions policy. This will affect. Regarding Putin, the war will end anyway. He's not going anywhere. Yes, you can still find reasons. Not now, there is no denazification, illegitimacy of the government, and so on. But still these reasons are useless. No one supports them in the world. There is no global support. They are aggressors for everybody. Still, 150 countries, the UN, 143 voted, so you can't ignore that. That is, they are guilty for this war, and the guilty party must end the war. And it will happen anyway, in one format or another, the war will be over. It's about the negotiating table. Did you say anything else? President Trump has made statements that he doesn't want to be involved. No, I had a very good conversation with him, and he understands that it's not a simple way, and I don't know in what case he answered this way that you said. I think that maybe the question was about a trilateral meeting, a potential trilateral meeting. And that's why he thinks that force is bilateral, because it's clear that Trump wants to have success for him for the United States. And he understands that maybe during the first meeting he will not succeed, but I'm sure if all of us will be strong so we can have a successful moment for the people. Finish the war. And of course, it's understandable that ceasefire is not just and lasting peace, but it's a big step forward. Thank you. We do not yet have security guarantees in the form of documents, but Ukraine definitely has security guarantees in the form of people. People who are either already involved in the defense of the country or who may potentially be involved. And the other day, on your initiative, the government allowed men aged 18-22 to cross the state border. My first question is, do you think there will be more benefits here, or can we still have potential negative consequences from such a decision? And why does this decision not mention men who are 22, 23, 24 years old? And can we expect any decisions regarding them in the future? There are statistics that we have had for probably 2 years now, and it is getting worse. There are fewer and fewer boys graduating from school in Ukraine. It was a wide range of consultations, primarily with the military. And with educators, we really need, if we want to keep Ukrainian boys in Ukraine, we really need them to graduate from school here first. And to prevent their parents from taking them out without graduating from school. And this is very bad, because it is at this age in high school that they lose touch with Ukraine. Today it is a fact, because if it was a matter of a month, 2, 3, we would still be thinking. When we saw that this was a serious trend and we were talking about thousands. I'm not talking about hundreds of thousands, but the question is about thousands, and we see this issue growing. The decision was made. We looked at the age, talked to the military command. We absolutely understand that this age, the university age, the student age, that children can easily graduate from schools not only in Ukraine, but that it is important to enter Ukrainian universities. Not abroad, but in Ukraine, and what's important is to complete these higher education programs in Ukraine. Therefore, from the point of view of all these areas, all these issues, the answer was found, which had no impact on the defense capability of our state. Could there be a negative impact, with concerns that these young men might leave and not return? We see that there are no mass departures. There are analysts. Some people say that those who really wanted to leave probably already left, but we have to find a balance in the state, not to lose either education or the educational level of our children. Not to lose the boys when they are still at school, but to give them the opportunity to study here, to grow up in Ukraine and remain Ukrainians, because we believe that a large percentage will return after the war, but we need to work for this. If a child does not finish school in his or her home country and leaves, i.e. he or she leaves as a young adult, the risks of not returning are very high. That is why the decision was made. I would like to ask you, we see that Russia is not showing signs of wanting to meet, obviously publicly, not publicly it seems either. Do we have a deadline agreed with our partners by which we are waiting for them to say, yes, no, we'll continue? And we are waiting for 2 or 3 weeks, then we hope for sanctions from the US for the supply of weapons. Is there any understanding of the time frame? There is a dialogue with President Trump. Each of us must be responsible for what we say and what we are willing to do. I think we spoke bilaterally with the President of the United States and then with the Europeans that we reaffirm these platforms. And let's agree with you, how long are we waiting? Basically, we had the same question as you. How long are we waiting? Waiting for what? We are waiting for some strong steps from the United States towards Russia. because you just offered it to us and we immediately agreed. What else can you expect from us? We have agreed. Russia has not yet agreed. And then it came from the president. Okay, we'll be ready in a couple of weeks. It means when we spoke, it means 2 or 3 weeks. Just to remind everyone through your camps that 2 weeks will be on Monday, and we will remind everyone. A few more clarifying questions about security guarantees. You have mentioned that the next week will be fruitful in terms of meetings with international partners. When we can expect the security guarantee to be presented, and will it be formalized in a certain document? As well as questions about the presence of a foreign contingent in Ukraine. Do we already have confirmation from partners? Do we know which countries and how much they are willing to provide? We have no confirmation, we have no specifics yet, because I believe that confirmation is when a country speaks with specific numbers about what it is ready to do. Theoretically, we understand several countries that are ready to take such steps. There are expected countries and there are very unexpected ones. I'll say this, but not for intrigue. I'm just sharing what we have. I have outlined these basic things about security guarantees to you. We will present them to our colleagues. In any case, there will be a dialogue and there will be arguments, and this is normal. Freedom of speech, and so it will happen. I can't tell you the date. We want to build the infrastructure first and understand what the choreography of this will be, as the partners say. And this is very important. I want to talk about this in the next week or so, and then I think in a little while, we will understand who is ready for what. What we want is for these security guarantees from European countries, the key ones at least, and from the United States of America, to be supported by parliaments and Congress. Yes, we want legally binding security guarantees. We do not want the Budapest Memorandum. We do not want the Minsk agreements. We want a serious We've spoken document. To many people who have expressed that great deal of fatigue with the war, especially after the attacks we saw in Kyiv yesterday. Many people we've spoken to have said that they don't feel the diplomatic efforts will work, that they won't yield in real results. Could you address those concerns to those of your people who say they are tired of the war, but feel that diplomatic efforts will not lead anywhere? Let's try to answer your questions and analyze it logically. There are 2 ways to end the war, military or diplomatic. We all understand that Russia cannot occupy us today. We all understand that Ukraine cannot fully restore all of its territories with weapons today. They lack the strength, we lack the strength. Therefore, when we talk about what society and people believe in, I believe that today the diplomatic way is less killing, less loss, and faster than the way of war. In my opinion, this is true.